This is the real Rudd budget. I'm Joe Hockey. Labor has lost control of Australia's public finances. We have gone from record surpluses to record deficits in record speed. Labor has combined deficits of $220 billion. This is the biggest spending government since World War II at 29% of GDP, far larger than even Gough Whitlam or Paul Keating. Traditionally, large deficits on this scale have been associated with wartime efforts. Mr. Rudd has declared many wars. This year, there will be a $32 billion deficit, a turnaround of $50 billion. Next year, a record deficit of $58 billion, the largest since World War II. After that, $57 billion, $45 billion in the next year, and $28 billion the year after. It remains the biggest spending government in modern times. Let's have a look at the historical comparison. Let's compare apples with apples, deficit as a proportion of GDP. You can see the impacts of the various recessions, but it's quite clear that under the coalition, with surplus budgets, we inoculated Australia for the difficult times. However, the Rudd-Swan government has spent money at a record level. This becomes Australia's burden. Mr. Rudd's record deficits mean record public debt. Mr. Swan talked about a $200 billion loss of revenue. However, $124 billion is new spending since the last election. New taxes and revenues represented $26 billion, but the net debt of the nation will grow to $188 billion by 2012. This means interest payments on the Rudd debt alone will be $8 billion a year, and Australian families will now pay the price for Labor's reckless spending. The total public debt will be around $300 billion, but net debt will reach record levels. Again, you can see under the Hawke-Keating government, net public debt grew substantially. It was paid off by the coalition, even to the extent of saving money. But under the Rudd-Swan government, there has been a dramatic increase in net public debt. This becomes your debt, and it will cost you. Mr. Rudd's budget deficits will add around $9,000 in debt for every man, every woman, and every child in Australia. The interest on this alone will cost each Australian around $500 a year, and these costs will continue until the debt is paid off by you, your children, and your grandchildren. As you can see, the net interest payments on public debt are substantial. At the higher levels, we had record levels of interest rates under the Hawke-Keating government. It was a coalition that paid down the interest repayments. Even at low levels of interest rates, you can see that the Rudd-Swan level of interest repayments will have a huge impact on the discretionary spending in the budget. It will mean less money for public services like hospitals and schools. Most significantly, it means fewer jobs. Unemployment has risen from a record low under the coalition to an expectation of around 8% next year. This means nearly 1 million Australians will be out of work, and that's an extra 500,000 people on the dole in the short time since Mr. Rudd was elected. Labor is traditionally associated with high unemployment. Why is it that under Labor we always have higher unemployment? As you can see under the Hawke-Keating governments, it reached near record levels of around 11%. But we are now going back to the peaks under the Rudd-Swan government. Mr. Rudd doesn't talk about working families anymore because they aren't able to find the work and they may not be able to pay the bills. It's the Labor way. Big spending, big taxing. Labor is betting that the economy rebounds into a massive and unprecedented boom, and that there will be no new spending or tax reductions until 2017. An absurd proposition. This is casino economics. It's simply not credible. The real future under Labor is more debt, higher interest rates, higher taxes, and sadly higher unemployment. Labor has never paid off its debt, and it will never pay off Mr Rudd's $188 billion debt, because there will be much more to come.